What's up, Hockey Town? It's been a minute since the season has ended. The draft lottery has happened. The playoffs are in full tilt. We're going to go through a little mock draft tonight and kind of recap the season and where the Wings go from here. It's going to be a fun episode. Let's go.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Hockey Town Hangout.
Brings it in, scores! Oh, his first NHL goal is a beauty!
The sickest Detroit Red Wings podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Forrest, what have you been thinking of the playoffs so far?
I mean, Stanley Cup playoffs are the best playoffs that there are. I know that you and a lot of people out there share that same sentiment. Nothing quite like it. The intensity goes up. The grit goes up. The heart has to go insanely high up. It's just a really fun time. Even if you don't have a team in the race, like obviously we don't with our Wings getting eliminated at the end of the season, it's kind of fun in a way with a neutral just rooting and watching to see good hockey. And I think we've definitely been treated to that up to this point, seeing the Rangers not lose a game yet. Obviously, they're playing here tonight on Thursday, and we'll obviously see if they win again tonight, but they're looking like a wagon. The Avalanche Stars series, I think that one's probably going to go 7 games as well. That one I think is going to be the winner of the West personally. Either way, the 2 brackets I filled out, I had one with Dallas and one with Colorado. So I just think it's completely wide open this year, a lot like March Madness. And that's the beauty of it.
It's just funny because one you can have a hot goalie for a period of time like Jeremy Swayman, and then just for some reason it just can't seem to go your way. And really has been just like nothing but drama the entire time. And it is nice, you're right, not having a personal stake in it, but I'm getting sick of being used to that, to be honest with you. But that is part of the rebuilding process that we are still enduring. And with that being said, there was a draft lottery that occurred. The draft lottery and the city of Detroit do not get along. We weren't really expecting any lottery luck this year, although that would have been pretty funny if this was the friggin' year where we would have jumped up. That would have been pretty hilarious, not going to lie. So we have a real official document here. I shouldn't even be showing you this. We're going to be going through the first 15 picks, a little 1.0 mock draft. We are just a couple of a-holes who talk about hockey on the internet. We don't have any inside intel. We are just kind of having fun here. So please save your comments. Build us up, don't tear us down. So I'm going to get it going with the first overall pick because I'm pretty sure we know where that's going. Then we're going to rotate back and forth. And then once we get to 15 for the Red Wings pick, we're going to break it down a little bit and we'll talk about what we both would do. All right. So that being said, first overall, I think it's safe to say the San Jose Sharks are going to take Macklin Celebrini. So I'll write that down on our document here and we'll keep track as we go along.
Don't want to stay in that one too long. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Hobie Baker winner as a freshman on one of the better teams in all of college hockey. I will be the first to admit I did not watch a lot of his games. I did watch his game in the Frozen Four, and I came away impressed. He seems like somebody that's going to be definitely somebody that's going to help out the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, they finished as the worst team in the league. They need the help, and getting somebody like this is going to help restart their rebuild and get them moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy pick for sure.
So with the second pick in the 2024 RWDH Hockey Town Hangout mock draft, not San Jose. The Chicago Blackhawks are going to select Artem Levshunov, the right-handed defenseman from Michigan State. I've seen a lot of what is his name? Demidov going to 2 with Chicago. I've seen a lot of arguments for that, and I think it makes a lot of sense, but I just think that with Connor Bedard, they've got Frank Nazar, who they just signed from Michigan. I think they're looking good up front. I personally do not know of any big names on the back end for them, and the value of a right-handed defenseman in today's day and age. They go for minimum one first-round pick. So I'm going to take Levshunov with the thinking that he's going to take probably the same trajectory as Mo, be a real good stay-at-home defenseman, two-way player, and help feed Connor Bedard for years to come.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that pick. I really like Lev Schnoff. I think he's going to be a really solid defensive player for the Blackhawks in this case, which kind of screws me because I thought you were going to go Demidov there, and I was going to take Lev Schnoff at 3. But hey, we're just rolling with the punches. So Lev Schnoff's off the board, and the Ducks have so many offensive players, man. But I mean, Demidov and Lindstrom are pretty good. They already have that left-handed D in Mintyukov, so I really don't want to take Bouillon. It's probably a little too early to take Parekh. I'm just going to take Demidov here, I think.
Okay.
I'll go Demidov, and they can be a little patient, I guess, with him. I doubt he's coming over next year, but really, really exciting player. And I mean, if you're the Ducks and you already have, Zegras and McTavish and Gauthier, and you can add Demidov to that, I mean, that's an exciting core without a doubt.
They are going to be absolutely loaded up front. You talk about a scary team out west for a long time. I mean, that forward group is nothing to be scoffed at. Obviously, maybe a little thin on the back end, but hey,
I really like that.
And continue to add to it. I don't dislike that pick at all. All right. So going to 4, the Columbus Blue Jackets. This one's kind of tough. I'm kind of leaning more defenseman here. I think I'm going to go with the tall Russian, Anton Salayev.
Okay.
I think when you're Columbus, like they had so many picks in the recent history that they can really kind of go best player available here. A 6'7" defenseman, those don't grow on trees. Especially when they're playing in Russian leagues at a very young age. So I think that at 4, there's great value with that pick. And, if he can turn into, obviously the comp for tall defensemen is usually Victor Hedman. If he can turn into a Victor Hedman two-way type, even maybe not at his points level, but, around the 40, 50 point area, he's going to be a solid defenseman and top 4 defenseman in the league with potential to go higher.
All right, so that takes us to 5th overall, and the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, they had the first overall pick a couple years ago and picked Juraj Slafkovsky. Man, do I do it? They don't really have a ton of D prospects, do they?
I don't think that they do, to be honest. Wait. You're talking about the Habs. No, the Habs should be pretty good on defense. I think if anything, they're probably looking more offense. They have Houston up there. They've got Mayu waiting in the wings. I think they've got a couple guys that are knocking on the door for defense that they called up at the end of the year. But it's your pick, my friend.
It is my pick. You're right. Just going through some of their prospects here on Cap Friendly real quick. They got that Reinbacher kid. Yeah, they're probably already on D. All right, I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to take Caden Lindstrom here.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that pick. 6'3" down the middle.
Yeah, big kid. I mean, I think he was hurt a little bit this year. I think he missed a little bit of time, but I don't think that really scares away a team like the Habs here.
No, definitely not. All right, moving on to 6, the former Arizona Coyotes, Phoenix Coyotes, now the Utah potential Soakers.
Keep dreaming, pal.
Oh my gosh, that would be. I mean, come on, that in this day and age, that's the kind of stuff we need to see. I mean, everybody needs a good laugh these days, and that would be that kind of thing. Obviously, it's not going to happen.
Well, if you've watched any Arizona Coyotes hockey, you might have been laughing. So let's see who they pick here.
All right. So to the pick, I think they need to add on the defensive end. I think they've got a lot of young guys up front, especially even in the NHL right now. They're just super young in general. So we're going to go defense here. Going to take the younger I'm going to absolutely butcher this. Bouillon brother. Bouillon. Out of Denver, national champion this year. Actually, 2-time national champion. I'm pretty sure he was out there with Carter Mazer.
Right.
Just more of the same. Puck moving defenseman. Those don't grow on trees. When you're at the top like this, you take the biggest swings. And I mean, watching him, at least in the Frozen Four and championship, I came away pretty impressed with his two-way ability. The guy looked like he shouldn't be playing in the NCAA, to put it simply.
I really like that pick. I think Zeev Buium is going to be a stud. Hopefully he can continue that in Utah. And hopefully his brother Shai can continue to make an impact in the Red Wings organization as well. Number 7, the Ottawa Senators. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ottawa Senators did something really stupid here. I'm not gonna do it here just for the sake of not pissing people off, but like a kid by the name of like Beckett Seneca, who's like continues to like shoot up like everyone's rankings and everything, and everyone's talking about him more. And like Oshawa's just down the road from Ottawa, and I could see their management staff doing some dumb shit and taking a kid like that right here. But I'm not gonna do that just because I don't want to. So I think with the Senators, they're just in such a weird spot because you fire a coach and then you hire a new coach who's like pretty much the same thing as that coach. And there's rumors of, maybe Kachuk getting traded and everything. So I think a spot right here, they have some guys on the back end in Shabbat and Sanderson. I think right here, probably go for a guy who has a lot of offense. That's what I would do anyway. So I think right here at 7, I'm going to take Berkeley Catton.
Ooh, I think that's a good pick. I like it. This is an area I've been reading up a lot about this 2 through 10 area. It's whatever your flavor is. If you got something that you're looking for, if you got a need, I mean, it's just really very team dependent. So
yeah,
I do think it's kind of cool how wide open it is this year. A lot of really good players, and I know that we're going to get to the Wings in a little bit, but there should be some quality talent here to add in the middle of the round, kind of like a Dylan Larkin about a decade ago. So
yeah,
I think that's an exciting one.
54 goals, 62 assists, and 116 points in the WHL with, I think he played in Spokane. So
nothing to scoff at there. All right, moving to 8 with the Seattle Kraken. I'm going to take Zane Parikh out of Saginaw, the right-handed defenseman. Believe he had 100 points this past year. I know that we were texting back and forth. He definitely could be one of the best Saginaw Spirit guys outside of Vincent Trocheck. Definitely a stud there. Go ahead.
Obviously a little biased, right? But the Saginaw Spirit organization was dust for a really long time. And in the past, since they hired that new GM that's there right now, they've really started to turn around and be like a relevant club. The Memorial Cup is up in Saginaw just in a couple weeks. I think it's it starts on Memorial Day weekend. If you're someone who lives in Michigan, the mid-Michigan area, affordable, electric hockey, and the Spirit will be playing. So this kid right here, I've seen him play live. I've talked to the head coach of the team about this player. He's a stud and he just works really hard. And I'm really jealous that this isn't a couple years ago when we were picking in this range, because I really do think that kid is going to be special. And there's some other Buium too. I think he's going to be special. That Levshunov kid, I think he's going to be special. I'm not just being a homer. I really think this kid's the real deal.
6 foot, right-handed. He's one of 2 at the top here that are right-handed. Those guys are at a premium. To scoop him up at this stage, yeah. At number 9, that's jeez, oh please.
Send him to the West. We don't have to deal with him. That's fine.
Yeah, how nice would that be? All right.
Calgary?
Going to Calgary. Go ahead, Matt.
This one, if he falls this, I don't even know if he'd be falling really, but kind of a match made in heaven here. I'm going to go TJ Ginla here for Calgary.
I think maybe one of the most mocked picks, but it seriously makes way too much sense. I'm not going to harp on this one. It is a match made in heaven. I think this one's a simple, quick walk up when the day comes. If he's still there at 9, he's another one that's been shooting up boards. He had a good World Juniors and World Championships appearance, and showed out there, which really helped his stock. Okay, moving to the New Jersey Devils. Kind of an interesting one. A team that was incredible 2 years ago and really caught the league by storm, regressed hardcore this year. For this one, I think that they're pretty set on defense for the most part. Really, gosh, we all know they need a goalie. I'm leaning more offense on this one. But let's see. Who do we got left? With him still out there, I think I'm going to go with Sam Dickinson out of London and in the OHL. Left-handed defenseman.
Another D.
I just think that with how deep the defense is in this class, and I feel like it really hasn't been for the last couple of years. You really haven't heard anything about a lot of defensemen being high up. So I think there's going to be a run on defensemen this year, and I do believe that works in our favor sitting down there at 15. I do think one of the Yzerman and Connolly, somebody like that's more offensive driven, kind of a la Caulfield, might fall that aren't maybe as well rounded. So interesting to see how that plays out. But yep, Sam Dickinson going 10 to New Jersey for me.
Okay. Then that leaves me with the Buffalo Sabres. Again, another organization that I just wouldn't be surprised if they did something stupid here. But we're not going to do that now. I think, although wouldn't hate if this kid did slide to 15, so the Red Wings could consider taking this kid. I am going to take Cole Yzerman here for Buffalo at 11. And I know people kind of rip on this type of player and the comparisons to Caulfield and everything. What I will say is this, is that this scoring record that Yzerman broke with NTDP, like all the guys that are in that category who have held the record and that have been broken and rebroken and stuff, all those guys are legit. Like Phil Kessel, Kane, Caulfield, I'm missing one other guy, like
Hughes. Yeah.
So like good players. So I think Yzerman, I don't think he's not as small as Caulfield. He says he's 6 foot. So I think it'll take him some time, but I think he'll figure it out. I mean, to break that record, it's something legit. So I think him at 11 is good value. So
I would say great value. Like you mentioned, everybody that scores at that high of a level has had success in the pros. So I think that's pretty foolproof, especially at 11 out of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 11. 12 is the Philadelphia Flyers.
Correct.
I'm going to go with somebody international again. Konsta Helenius, center out of the Liga with Tapara. Right. Just reasoning on this one, they just traded away Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale. Cutter Gauthier was one of their higher prospects. I think that losing him, it's not a bad idea to reload down the middle and take somebody that I've been seeing slowly move up mock draft boards here over the last couple weeks.
For sure. I just want to take a quick look at Minnesota real quick before I get to my pick. And then I also will, while I'm looking for this, I will mention Helenius because I've seen him linked to a couple of mocks. I think one of the athletic ones even. Just kind of apprehensive about Finnish forwards. I mean, if you think back to the last 30, 35 years, I mean, can you think of anyone outside of Teemu Selanne, Mikko Rantanen, and Alexander Barkov? I can't.
No.
So I would pump my brakes when considering drafting a Finnish guy, especially a forward. I mean, just I'm not trying to there's hockey hotbeds and everything, right? And it's the same thing with the what's his name? The Michael Branson Nygaard kid who's from Norway. Again, not a hockey hotbed. Just when you get to that middle of the first round, it's just everything's a coin flip. So I personally would stay away from a Finnish player here, but hey, if the Flyers want to take him, that's more than all right by me. And we get now to the Minnesota Wild at 13. Just kind of looking at their D here. I think I'm going to go right shot D at this pick. I think I'm going to go Carter Yakimchuk here from Calgary in the Western League. Really big, 6'3", 200 pounds, 71 points, 66 games. I think this is a good fit here because they got a lot of left-handed D.
No complaints over here from me. For 14, this one's going to be a quick one. Take a center at the first pick. We're going to go defense. We're going to take Adam Jiricek out of the Czech League. Another right-hand defenseman. Only so many good ones in the league. When you have a chance to pick up this high, I just think that you try and stack players that are going to play together for a long time so they can grow together. That's just personally how I would start a team, and somebody that needs the picks like that, getting somebody up front, somebody out back. I don't think there's any better way to walk out of this first round that first night and patting everybody on the back doing this.
For sure. All right, recap real quick before we get to the wings. Celebrini 1, Levshinov 2, Demidov 3, Salayev 4, Lindstrom 5, Buyam 6, Catton 7, Perek 8, Iginla 9, Dickinson 10, Iserman 11, Hellenius 12, Yakimchuk 13, and Jiricek 14. So, some players who are on the board: Greentree, Brantzig Nygaard, Connolly, Beckett Seneca, Sasha Boisvert, Tarek Parasak. I really wouldn't go D here, Forrest. Would you go D here?
No. I'm looking for somebody up front that, obviously you're not going to get anybody with ridiculous skill here in the middle of the first round, but I'm looking for somebody that can put the puck in the net.
Yeah.
So at least for me, I'm looking Connolly or Seneca. Those are, I would say, the top two on my list. Not sure about you.
So what I will say is I like Connolly. I'm like all the character stuff. Like, I've read the Athletic article. I've read countless tweets about it. Like, you can do your own research and make your own opinion. If the guy's a POS, he's a POS. You can't do much to change that. He's a kid and he doesn't have a fully developed brain. He won't for probably 7 more years. Those are things you need to talk about and weigh about within your organization. I personally am, one on second chances, and I understand that kids do really dumb things because I was a kid and I did some dumb things. Maybe not to the degree that he's being accused of, but hey, we all make mistakes in different ways. I think his play on the ice, you have to at least consider taking him here, especially if you're looking for a guy who has that high offensive ceiling like we have talked about. Another player I really like who's just in the backyard is Liam Greentree. He's a big winger, plays for the Windsor Spitfires, had 90 points in 64 games. Not the best skater, but again, has really good offensive instincts and just kind of a hard worker, big body. And then I wouldn't take him here at 15, but this is a kid that I'm starting to really, really like, Tarek Parasak from Prince George in the Western League. Rookie in the Western League, had 105 points. Connor Bedard's first full year in the Western League, he had 100. I'm not saying the kid's going to be Connor Bedard. I am not saying that. But when you compare the points, they're comparable. And actually, this kid, if the article I read earlier was true, came from the same league that Bedard played in and actually left that league with higher point totals. Again, not saying this kid is going to be Connor Bedard, but you have to look at the numbers considering they played in the identical leagues. So I really, really like this kid. I encourage you to do your research on him. And if there's somebody who wants to trade up here and get a guy like Connolly or Brantzig Nygaard, and I could trade back to the 20-ish range, acquire another second, third round pick or something, and maybe get this kid, I would consider doing that. But if I'm staying at 15 and picking a player, I think I'll take Liam Greentree over Connolly.
I think it just comes down to, whatever the room is thinking. Like, I really don't think that Connolly or to be honest, I'm not the most familiar with Greentree, but I know for a fact that he tore up the OHL. So I think anybody that wants to put the puck in the net, I think me personally, I'd probably go Connolly. I'm with you on the second chances at this point, halfway through. Like, if you just take out the off the ice issues, this guy should not be here at 15. And I think for that reason alone, with the captains you have, the leadership group you have, you can take a chance on a guy at some point. And year after year after year of taking guys that maybe aren't home runs, guys that are more safer picks, it's time to get off the rocking chair and take a chance on someone, in my opinion. So,
Hey, I completely have your back on that one. I think, if you want to take a guy like Branson Nygaard at 15, fine, but his ceiling is like 40 points.
it's just a boring pick. And like he kind of reminds me a lot of Casper. And Casper was not, I mean, Casper still has potential, don't get me wrong, but somebody that tops out is like a 40, 50 point, like more defensive guy, two-way guy than somebody that's going to be leading the charge on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and like just to kind of piggyback off that, like I don't think it's necessarily a boring pick. I just think that you're not getting a 90-point guy in UFA, and they're really, really hard to trade for unless you're willing to give up a lot. You have to try and get these guys here in the first round, and if you're really lucky, the second round or maybe even the third round. They don't really happen later in the draft. You have to use these picks to try and get these players. And we've done a good job the past 5 years drafting in terms of BPA and need. Sider has hit, Raymond has hit, Edvinson looks like he's going to hit. Really still optimistic about Casper and Danielson, but none of those guys. I mean, Raymond might be 90-point guy. That'd be awesome. But I just think it's time to take a swing for someone with a really high offensive ceiling. That's what I would do. Who knows what they will actually do? We might just get our 200-foot player and like it. So who knows?
Yeah. And it's just one of those things that everybody you just mentioned is a first round pick. They don't have anybody really outside of that first round that's come out of nowhere and really knocked everybody's socks off. Granted, there's guys that could be fitting that bill, but definitely not in that rarefied area yet. And like you mentioned, Lucas Raymond's really the only one that we're seeing really pop off, become that go-to guy. And in my opinion, a lot of the, maybe not first rounds, but second and third round picks have been on the safer side. So I think that when you have those extra picks, you take the flyer on the guy that maybe is more questionable to see if it hits, and you hit a home run. You don't shoot, you don't score. So
yeah, there's always a calculated risk with it. Even when you're taking a guy that you think is safe, there's still a calculated risk with it, right? So
yeah.
And at the end of the day, you can't roster everyone you draft. So, I don't know. If it were me, I would take a little bit of a swing here on the first round pick. And we still have a pick in the second and a pick in the third. And if you want to try and fill a safer need with those picks, I don't think the fan base would really have a problem with that, but I think it is time to take that swing.
In agreement. We're moving out of the phase of being a bottom dweller and just trying to fill up the pipeline. We need to start taking swings for the fences and start taking chances, because that's how all these great Red Wings teams are formed. They were formed by taking chances on guys in later rounds that maybe had a lot of risk. I mean, taking a Fedorov in the middle rounds, that's a risk. Chances were that he was not going to come over. And, examples like that. So the safe pick is not always the right pick. Granted, we've had a lot of hits and very thankful for that, but it's that time in the rebuild. Swing for the fences, see what these guys got, and put it in the hands of your scouts. And if they're not good, replace them.
Good point. I like that. So shifting gears a little bit now, we're a month out from the season ending, right? The pain has subsided a little bit, kind of shifting gears in the outlook. We just did this little lottery mock draft here. When we talk about what the team's going to look like in the fall, I think the real big question mark a lot of fans have is the defense. Let's not talk about Patrick Kane right now or anything like that. I think the biggest question for me and a lot of the fans who, so many informed fans of the Red Wings, what is going on with the defense and how is that going to get fixed?
Well, to keep it simple, this is going to be a classic case of addition by subtraction. Got to get rid of at least the core six you had from last season. Now, in that six, I'm basically considering Wallman, Sider, Sherratt, Edvinson and Petrie, and then we'll say Sherratt and like Mata. I think that specifically for me, Mata and Petrie both need to go. I think that more teams would be interested in Mata over Justin Holl, just based off of personal preference, really. I know Justin Holl gets a lot of bad press from when he was on the Leafs, but we know that that's just an organizational issue at this point. So I don't think Justin Holl has any kind of value. So, but I do think that Oli Mata might. So if you attach a mid-round pick to Oli Mata, or even buy him or Petrie out, I think you gotta dump one of them via a buyout, and you got to get rid of the other, retain some salary, and trade away a pick. Bring up Johansson, guaranteed. Sherratt can play on his offhand. Get him up, third pairing with Sherratt. And for right-handed, I got to really figure out who else I want out there. But top pairing, obviously, as we know, should be Seider and Wallman, considering that Wallman is going to be healthy next year. Second pairing, Edvinson, and honestly, I would go out and just sign someone. And maybe even playing Justin Holl. But I just think that you can't run the same group back. At least a third of the group has to be turned over, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And while, yes, this team was easier to watch than others, Jeff Petrie makes me want to take a fork to my eyeballs.
So in that world, Shane Gostisbehere leaves.
Yes, I should have mentioned that. I'm assuming that we're not re-signing Ghost.
Okay. You feel so handcuffed when you look at everything and the logjam that just a couple of contracts can create. A couple of contracts, and then you go out and you trade for Petrie as well. So it's just kind of created your own mess on this one, I think, which is the most frustrating part of it. But, to your point, kind of that phase of the rebuild where we're just trying to get adequate bodies in here to be somewhat competitive, to surround our players who are going to be with us moving forward. But I think I don't hate your plan, like Sherratt playing on the offside, like whatever, fine. I think, Johansson needs to be in the lineup next year. Obviously he needs waivers if he's not going to be at least on the roster. But I don't really see the point of, well, we don't want to waive him, but we're going to just health bomb him every night too. I think that's a horrendous message, and I hope that doesn't happen. Because if that's the case, just waive the kid and let him play somewhere or trade him. But yeah, I don't hate that. I think probably Mata and Petrie might be the two easiest ones to move. You'll have a full year of Simon Edvinson. How much does his steady presence back there help things just in and of itself? Assuming he stays healthy, knock on wood, all that goes well. Logging 20 minutes a night. We saw what he can do. He looks like he's been playing for 5 years already. Just super calm with the puck in the own zone, making good reads. He's going to make a mistake here and there, but he's young. That'll happen. But yeah, I think you really need to, you have Mo and you have Simon and Johansson coming in, three young guys back there, two lefties and a righty, and you need to build around them. Obviously, Sherratt's probably not going anywhere, so you have to use him. And then Wallman, if you hang on to him, play him with Seider, or if, you can maybe bring in another defenseman. Like you said, maybe it's not someone to play on the second pair. Can you bring in someone to play on the first pair and then slot people down? Is that within the realm of possibility? Is there a situation that could arise where someone calls you and offers you a pretty decent young top four defenseman that fills a need for you and might cost you, a higher pick and a prospect? Is that something you'd be willing to do? I think a lot of fans would say, hey, if the price isn't extreme, let's do something. I think that there's just some hunger amongst fans, not just to make a trade, but you look at Steve Yzerman and how he was able in Tampa to, trade a broken Ben Bishop for a prospect Eric Chernak and a pick. Where's that guy? I think that's what a lot of people are wondering, and it's just why there's got to be deals out there. There has to be some type of deal out there, and it really just is a matter of, are you going to shit or get off the pot? And I mean, like, it's not like, the one that stands out because of recency bias is Middlestat for Byram, 1-for-1 hockey trade, 2 young players. I mean, how long did that take to materialize? Like, these are the things I'm so curious about. Like, is it just a few phone calls and it's just a couple of guys who are just like, yeah, fuck it, we're going to ball? Like, I mean, I just don't think that really there's a lot that goes into it. I think a lot of times guys just get nervous and they would rather just, oh, well, I signed this player, I don't want to trade him. If I, just leave him here, it's easier. Like, I don't really know what it is. Can't really put my finger on it, but I just really would like to see more movement, because there's so many players, there's so many hockey players, and you're telling me these 20 guys or 23 guys, these are the best hockey players in the world that our organization can find. Because don't get it twisted, the message that's not read by 99% of people is the organization, when they throw those 18 skaters and 2 goalies out there every night, the message you're saying is these are the best hockey players in the world we can find for this game tonight, because this is the top team in our organization and it's all about winning, and these are the best 20 we can find. Bullshit. You got to do better.
I think a big part of it is teams overvaluing their own players. I think that especially when you have some of these guys that are, banging the table, looking to bring in specific guys on, say, draft day, you do get a little bit of an attachment to them, and maybe you do overrate them. Like the big one that comes back to me was Zadina. He was in trade talks for years. Oh, let's make a hockey trade. It never materialized. He goes for absolutely nothing. Like, he would have been a perfect candidate to just take a swing on anybody, because we lost him for nothing. I think that instead of waiting until the last second, take a chance. And that's where I think Steve started off strong. The Fabry for Jacob Delarose, that one is seared into my mind. Getting just absolute robbery of the St. Louis Blues in that one. Trading Nick Leddy over there for a second round pick. I think that there are deals to be had out there. I feel like maybe it could possibly be that other GMs in the league are scared to pick up the phone when he calls. That could be a part of it too. Obviously we're not in the room for that stuff, so that's just entirely speculation. But yeah, it's been kind of quiet. Even on the free agent front, like no real big names interested in coming. So Steve, I'm hoping he's working his magic in some way. But yeah, they got to take a chance. And like Berggren and Johansson, are both of them going to be playing in the lineup on night 1 next year? There's nothing over the last, I'll say, 15 years that tells me that they're going to be opening spots for those two and actually letting them play. Everything in my conscience tells me that they're going to go out and they're going to sign some older guys to just fill the spot, because personally, I think Steve is using our love for us, or our love for him, against us. He knows that he's the golden child for us, and there's not much he can do wrong. Personally, I just think that the state this team is at, not being in the playoffs for 7 years, they need to do something to try and push for the playoffs next year. You've seen the changes in the atmosphere at LCA, seeing it with that playoff atmosphere. I know me, like, I'm hungry. I want to have a team that really competes. Even if we get our teeth bashed in, lose 4-0, getting the experience for this team, I think it would mean the world to them. And I do think this year was a big step forward, but taking that next step and really getting ourselves in position, this transition year is going to be absolutely massive. And transition summer as well. Defensive logjam, got to work in young players up front. How is Steve going to do the dance, or is he going to fall behind and sign the same veterans over and over again? To be determined.
I definitely think you need at least a couple, maybe a few ELCs on the roster next year. Obviously, raises for Mo and Ray are on the way at some point. If you want to bring back a Kane, that's, he was at 275. You'd think probably he's going to ask for at least north of 5, probably. So, that's money. Probably going to need a few. So, I mean, obviously Johansson would be one, Berggren would be one. Or is Berggren on the second one yet? I'm not sure.
He might be on his second one.
Either way, cheap, but
you
like,
have to have ELCs on the team.
mhm.
Like, and you see the really good teams that don't ever rebuild, a la Dallas, a la Colorado, they're shuffling in young guys on their ELCs every year.
Insane.
And you're seeing them pop off because they're getting the freaking opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if like we had a Wyatt, or even just played a Wyatt Johnston, a 19, 20-year-old getting minutes, getting called up midseason, not a Lucas Raymond or a Mo making the team out of camp. Our scouting department saying, no, this guy is legit. Call him up and get him time with the big club. I don't care about playoffs down in Grand Rapids. That's all fun and nice. I want to lift the freaking Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I agree with you kind of on that. I mean, you want to have a good culture on, your farm teams, but like sometimes they talk about the playoffs in Grand Rapids like that's supposed to mean as much. And it's like, no, it
Why
doesn't.
is Edvinson down there? Edvinson is a Detroit Red Wing now.
He should have been a Detroit Red Wing all year for sure. But hey, again, decisions that are above our pay grade. So the defense will be a juggling act, to say the least. Will be really interesting to see what he does. But at the end of the day, if you want to get rid of a guy, it just can't be that hard. If I'll retain 50%, give me a 6th round pick in 2027. Like it can't be that hard. I just refuse to believe it. But switching gears a little bit from D into the crease. Billy Husso and Alex Lyon are the ones under contract. Sebastian Cossa is 22. Jimmy Howard was 22 when he saw his first action, so he's getting to be around that age where we can expect to start to see him sprinkled in. What is your opinion on that? Do you think Husso and Lyon are good enough?
Well, there's a little bit to that. To answer for your first one, are they good enough? I'm going to say no. But I don't think that – I think that they're handcuffed with the situation they have. Paying Husso $5 million, being injury-ridden. I don't really see them making a move for an Ullmark or anything like that. I think they're going to have to ride out Husso and Lyon for another year. Lyon getting a majority of the starts, Husso filling in when needed, and then Cossa filling in case of an injury or something like that. And ideally, especially if we're in bad position come March, April, I expect him to come up and get a couple spot starts to get him. You got to break them in. These guys can't learn unless they're up at the NHL level, taking these bumps, taking these lumps, and learning. And that's the hill I'm going to die on. I would rather watch a Detroit Tigers team bore the crap out of me with their terrible, shitty offense every night, but they're playing young kids as opposed to the Red Wings with the old men club and signing guys that are overpaid and past their prime and trying to piece it together. Give me the young guys every day, twice on Sunday. End of rant.
And you look at the Dallas Stars, we'll pump their tires a little bit. Those guys they got in 2017, Robertson and Ottinger, and I think there was one more that I'm forgetting.
Heiskanen were all in the top 39 picks of 2017.
So, 2017 was only 6-7 years ago. It's not like, and they were in the lineup quick. I think Ottinger was a regular starter by the time he was 23, and even Johnston and Stankoven now. It's amazing how a team like that can find a way to plug in guys that they drafted 1 and 2 years ago, have success, find a way to put the appropriate pro pieces around them, right? Because back on D in Dallas, bringing in a guy like Tanev, right? That's a pro scout acquisition, midseason trade deadline acquisition, comes in and fits like a glove. And then you have some older guys there up front, Pavelski and Jamie Benn. You got kind of some guys who are in their prime, like Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson. Sagan's kind of getting to be that veteran leader kind of age. And it just seems like the way they've assembled that team has been a little forward thinking, which has been cool to watch because you don't see a team with a lot of guys. How many guys do they have in there that are 26 or younger? Probably half the team.
Yeah.
And so, but they do have those veterans sprinkled in, but it's not half their decor and it's not half their forwards. It really is fascinating to see how some of these teams do construct their teams, and considering how like big of a copycat league. I mean, all pro sports leagues are, but the NHL in particular, like how, like, I just don't understand how clubs aren't able to identify players better. If it's such a copycat league, how, like, obviously you don't reveal your scouting operations and your intel and what do you do, but I mean, you hang out with your colleagues and some pops start flowing and you talk about work and what they do. I mean, like, you got to be able to get a little bit of insight on what they're doing over there. I mean, just, I don't know. Maybe that's an unspoken rule. Who knows? But I just, again, like you said, to your point, Insanity's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I really just, I hope our scouts can have a better offseason than they've had the past couple. Because I mean, some of the things they've done, I really like the amateur scouting, but again, the pro scouting still concerns me, especially considering how many hoops we're going to have to jump through this summer to try and make the roster, just as good. I mean, anyway, you're 1 point out of a playoff spot this year, man. I mean, and to get back, I mean, getting 92, 94, 96 points next year, you got to really dial it in and assemble this roster the right way.
It just makes you think, if Alex Lyon didn't go on that 2-month tear, would this team really have been that close?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But that's why you can't run the same team back. Personally, if Steve does not make any large scale changes and brings back mostly the same decor that he brought in, the old man's club, I think if they don't make the playoffs, it's a fireable offense. I'm firmly in that camp at this point. If you don't make changes and look to bring somebody up that's young or give somebody new a chance. I mean, the whole reason the Dallas Stars are the way they are is because they give those guys a chance. If they didn't have the Wyatt Johnsons and people like that on their ELCs outperforming their contracts, they would not be where they are. You have to find those value. You have to find the value, and you have to give them the opportunity to take their lumps. And until I don't know if it's an organizational hindrance or whatever, but I think they just need to change the way they think. Go ahead.
I mean, you can go online, go look at, I mean, I think there's like 5 or 6 pro scouts listed for the Red Wings. I mean, go look at them. I mean, they're just names, I mean, like, it is what it is, but we're done ripping on them. But yeah, so I really just think that you could make the argument for the Stars that they don't even get past the first round without Wyatt Johnston, for crying out loud.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's insane that some of these, I get it. Different team, different phase of organizational life completely, trying to compete for a cup. But like, you're trying to compete for a cup, you got all these young kids on your team. Like, I mean, it's not how, like, recent champions have done it. When you think of Vegas and you think of Tampa, they're not bringing in 20-year-olds to play a top 6 role. I mean, it's insane how there's so many different ways that you can do it, but we're stuck in the mud with this way of thinking that we've been for so long. Let's draft a kid. Let's wait 4 years, 5 years. And it's insane, especially with how quick this game is getting. It's getting so fast, and it's a young man's game. Just is, period.
They shouldn't have to have a certain number of playoff appearances in Grand Rapids to be able to be called up, like Tyler Bertuzzi. I mean, there is no reason he shouldn't have been called up before he went off in the postseason that last year before he got called up. The over-ripening of guys that I truly believe that we're stunting guys' growth down there.
And I mean,
that's why I hope that like Casper gets out of there. I mean, you see what happened to Bergen. Bergen is he's basically stuck between AAA and the pros. He's not good enough to make the pros, but he's too good for Grand Rapids. And the biggest thing that scares me is more guys getting stuck down there. That's why I think that Mazur, Casper, Danielson, minimum one of them has to be on the roster next season.
And like, to your point too, Bertuzzi, I mean, enough time has passed now. I mean, what is Tyler Bertuzzi? A 50-point guy? Like, did that time in Grand Rapids really turn him? Is that really the ceiling deal of turning him? Like, I mean, I get it in a sense. You want guys playing meaningful minutes. You want them being confident. I mean, Yzerman said that in his end of season press conference. He likes guys playing. He likes guys confident. Fine. Hello. Do you not make the decisions on where they play? Like, you could have them come in and help out. And again, like he said, there were some guys this year who were never going to come up. I'm assuming he's talking about guys like Casper and Mazur and stuff like that. You make that decision, in October? These guys are not coming up. And then it's March and you're in this shit. Like, plans can't change?
Apparently not. Not with this old school thinking.
That's so weird to me. How come, like, plans can't change? I'd be sitting in my office and be like, fuck me. We're in this, we're in this shit, Forrest. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, I don't know. And it sucks too, because you go down that, you lose Larks and you have that losing streak, and that's probably extremely stressful, I would imagine. And I just feel like you got to scratch and claw your way into things sometimes. And they really did. I mean, they fought down till the very last second, till they possibly couldn't anymore. But it's still, that shows to show you, man, like, even if you feel like you are doing all the right things, it doesn't guarantee you a damn thing. You got to be forward thinking, and you got to be a little bit aggressive too.
You got to be ahead of the curve and push the boundaries on stuff. Good leadership, pivots, is able to get off an idea way before it becomes a bad idea.
For sure. So
that's good leadership. There aren't many of those out of there.
And just as we kind of wrap things up here, I don't really foresee any major, like, staff changes to the team. I suppose some assistant coach change could occur, but I don't really think about it. I feel like if some assistant coach wasn't coming back, we would have heard by now. But look, I think we were critical of Derek Lalonde at the end, and, you know, give him some credit where it's due. I mean, those last few games, he had them ready to go. They were fighting till the end. They did everything they had to do. You got to
it took 75 games, but our coach finally turned around. Yep.
Just give him a little credit, because if they did really give up on him, they wouldn't have been that effort at the end. They were playing for each other, and some of that does have to come from the coach.
It's just too little, too late.
You're right.
I hear you. Yeah, give some credit for them pulling up their bootstraps after it was too late. I give him credit.
But again, he's going into the last year of his deal now, and, you know, deservedly so. I would agree with you on that. I don't think he's done enough to warrant an extension yet. So, and I don't really.
No, let's give him the Troy Weaver treatment. Let's just sign him up for another 4-year extension.
Hey, Troy Weaver might show up to your house and try to fight you, so you might want to calm down. Do you see that clip of him trying to fight a fan that one game?
I did.
Oh my God,
and,
what a clown.
You know, be better at your job, or don't have such a public facing and public scrutiny job. I don't know what to tell you. You're making millions to suck. Sit down, be humble.
Why are you sitting in the stands? Isn't that like an invitation to get chirped?
Why aren't you sitting in a freaking box? I mean, I get that there's nobody at any Pistons games, but, like, why aren't you sitting in one of the really nice freaking lounges they have at that arena? That just defies logic to me. Well, I can't believe it.
But he clearly doesn't know how to make a good decision. But we digress.
Steve is beloved in this city, and he sits in the gondola as far away from everybody as possible. Tells you all you need to know. But
so again, going into the last year of his deal, I think it's a make or break year. I think, being like, this is the time now where we're transitioning out of the basement. Like, the league knows. I don't want to say we're back, because, you know, I think you need to make the playoffs to say you're back, but we're not in the basement anymore. Like, at least we weren't now. We could fall back. I don't know what'll happen, but you assume you're not going to, and you're going to be around as competitive, you would hope. So I think, again, some addition by subtraction for sure is in the mix. It has to be. I think some ELCs coming up has to be part of the mix, and not just Johansson and Bergeron because they're out of waivers. I really think you got to give all these kids a fair shot. You know, guys like Danielson and ASP included. ASP just signed his ELC the other day. He's got a European clause in it. If he makes the NHL team, he can stay. So I really hope he has a good camp. I hope a lot of these kids have good camps and just make it really, really tough on them. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of supplemental players. Real quick before we sign off, what do you think, Kane? Coming or going?
I don't think he's coming back, unfortunately. I don't think we have enough with all the bad contracts we've signed over the last couple of years. I just don't think that we have enough room with the extensions that are due for Ray and Mo. So I'm going to say no, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I'll be glass half full guy, and I'll say yes. I think they'll find a way to bring him back, and I hope they can, you know, work a little overtime, clearing out even some more dead weight to bring in guys who are actually solutions, like a Patrick Kane. I mean, who would have ever thought Patrick Kane would come in off of his hip being in 1,000 pieces and comes in, and he's arguably, he's probably your third best offensive forward behind Larkin and Raymond this season.
It's rock star shit.
Yeah. period. And I mean, just the aura and his presence in the room. You know, I mean, Yzerman and Newsy talked about it at their last press conference, just what he commands. And I think you really got to strongly consider having that man in your forward core. And if you got to do something and make a tough decision elsewhere, then that's what you got to do.
I think if they got rid of Hull, Petrie, and Mata through whatever avenues, I think they could have a chance to sign him. But with the lack of moves and lack of trades, I just don't see that many happening. But that's the beauty of the offseason. We can sit here and speculate all day, but it's going to happen one way or the other.
It's definitely going to happen one way or the other. So for our podcast here, we're going to take a little break here until June. And then once we get closer to the draft here in the silly season in June, we'll start picking up weekly shows again. Going to take a few weeks off. If you don't like it, that's tough. Make your own podcast and record every day. But we did our mock draft tonight, Forrest. I picked Liam Greentree for the Red Wings. You picked Trevor Connolly, a couple of guys with some high offensive ceilings. Certainly, someone's pissed. Someone's mad at something. It's just a whole thing. And
Bring on the keyboard warriors is what I've got to say. Opinions are always welcome as long as they're backed with facts and reason.
And hey, sometimes our tweets aren't backed with facts and reason, but that's, part of the charm, I suppose. But we appreciate you guys joining us. We're looking at next season to continue to grow our platform, and we want to thank you guys for helping us have a fun year this year. He's got a lot of work to do this summer, but Steve Yzerman, he's shown in the past that he has the ability to wheel and deal. So we really hope that he locks it in and fixes the back end. Maybe he can do something to bring in a little more firepower, whether it's in the form of a draft or a trade. So many things to happen between now and the end of June, beginning of July. The Red Wings are not in the basement anymore, and we got to keep making moves to make sure that we stay there. Those are my final words. Forrest, you got anything for us?
Just to echo the sentiment, we appreciate you all hanging out with us on this podcast this season, doing something different for us. Appreciate the support. We're going to obviously take off a little bit of time. Looking forward to next season and continuing to interact with you guys. Appreciate it.
See you.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Hockey Town Hangout on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.